So welcome to the key lessons of the Infinite Way. Great that you're here, that you made it back into the meeting, and we just skipped 1 week in attending this meeting, but it's great to be back and wonderful to take another look at Joel's teaching. The teachings of the Infinite Way by Joel Goldsmith. So today we have key lesson number 5, which has everything to do with treatment being a realization. In other words, treatment is a revelation. It's an experience of the love of God. It's not prayer. It's not praying for something to be repaired, or it's not praying for something that should change. It's like, no, this is the realization that literally everything is given to us, and that is the beauty of it. It's like everything is given. It's all perfect and whole and wonderful, but it is a realization. And so this point is really something that comes back today in the meeting in different ways, and it's kind of interesting. We will first start with prayer, like the prayer given by Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount, and specifically the words also before he starts to pray the Our Father. But in the talk with Joel, we start, instead of at the beginning, we start at the end. Because at the end, Joel starts talking about evaluating your spiritual progress. Now that's something really most of us really love to do, whether consciously or not. It's like you're evaluating, how's it going actually? Am I making any progress here? Because I still seem to be falling into the same traps or same distractions or same mistakes or same things that are repeating itself. Like, how is that possible? Like, did I completely miss it, or what is going on? In fact, the answer into that is given too. And so that's what we're preparing. That's what we're going to take another look at. And so that's really helpful. It's like, that's beautiful how that all came together today and will come together today. So first things first. So we quiet down our concepts. We quiet down our concerns. We come into, and say, relaxation when it comes to breathing slowly in through your nose and letting that air just go where it wants to go and blow it out. But like coming into a relaxation so that you come in touch with the receptivity for what lies beyond your definition of yourself, what lies beyond what you held possible, or what you think you are, or what you think your future will look like, or what you think your past did look like. All of that we go beyond for just a moment in our first meditation, completely based on Matthew 6, the specific part of Our Father, the prayer. And when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to stand and pray in the synagogues and at the street corners, that they may be seen by others. Truly, I say to you, they have received their reward. But when you pray, and this is the important part, when you pray, go into your room and shut the door, and pray to your Father who is in secret. And your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And when you pray, do not heap up empty phrases as the Gentiles do, for they think that they will be heard for their many words. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Pray then like this, and you can pray with me. Please do. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For if you forgive others their trespasses, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. But if you do not forgive others their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. Amen. So now we will be still for 5 minutes or so, and then I'll come back. All right. Thank you so much for joining in this opening and being silent together, being still, allowing our Father to speak to us. And so that's great. That's so lovely. Thank you for doing that with me. So the next part in this meeting is the preparation for listening to the talk. And I always do that because it's great to shed a light on what Joel is saying, even though Joel says it in his beautiful own way, which is totally great. But there's a lot to it, and that's why it's nice to stand still with it and take a look at it. So do I do that with the last paragraph from the beautiful transcript that someone made. Like the transcript has all the text of this talk, but in the last paragraph something is happening, and that is the idea of evaluating yourself or your progress, spiritual progress, and why that is not going to fly, according to Joel. And that's actually a really nice angle to look at the idea of treatment and healing, because the thing with healing is like, so what is it actually? What is actually treatment? What is healing? It's like Joel says it in the talk too. It's like, if God would know about that something needed to be healed, it would have been done yesterday without your question, without you asking. It would even happen. Like he knows your needs, so that cannot be it either. Now, what is then this treatment? Like, it's not a request. It's a prayer of like a to-do list for God to make his creation perfect. No, that's all done. That's all great and wonderful. So healing apparently has something to do with something completely different. And Joel uses the word realization. Like, realization is in fact not just realizing, oh yeah, that's how it is. Oh yeah, now I know. Like, if that is still something that you think you know, then that isn't it either. Because then it would fit within your own construct, within your own definitions. And that's why it is a secret. Joel uses this word a lot, secret, the secret of the secret of prayer, or secret of healing, or secret. He uses it many times, and just for that, because it is a secret. As soon as I'm really going to sit for it now, like as soon as it has to do with your definitions, that isn't it. That's why we call it a secret, and so that's good to hear that too. yeah, so another secret is going to be revealed to you today in relationship with the progress evaluations. Like, am I doing okay with my spirituality? Should I do this more or that more? Should I meditate longer? Should I be concerned about myself still experiencing all these things that are going on? Am I making any progress at all? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, of course, every one of us has these thoughts. And now what do you do with that? Like, what is the way out of that? Because it doesn't seem to, not go the way that you would think it could go, or you maybe have an image of it that you think like, oh, this should happen or that should happen. So Joel has a couple of expressions. I want to bring those in first before I start to take a little bit of a different angle on it too. Joel says here, spiritual healing is a realization, not a prayer. Healing is about realizing the perfection and wholeness that already exists in divine consciousness, thereby dissolving the illusion of human definition and limitation. So that's quite an expression, like realizing the perfection and wholeness that already exists in divine consciousness. So that is what healing is. Healing is about the perfection, realizing the wholeness and perfection that already exists in divine consciousness. Now that is coming into your realization, like that has to be like a revelation to you to come into that experience. Because you cannot, literally, you cannot, say, intellectually get yourself into that. Because what do you use as your intellect? Past experiences, past theories, or past ideas that keep circling around in your mind, like God should be like this, and maybe I should do that and this. And God is perfect. And basically you don't know anything. Like, you don't know what that means to be whole and perfect. So that is not definable. Otherwise it would still be a concept. Now this is the lovely part of it, because then you see that within these things that we're acquainted to, by repeating ideas like God is perfect or whatever you want to call that, like, no, there's a divine consciousness and it's perfect. Now, what does that have to do with my consciousness? What does that have to do with my experience of myself? Is there a possibility for me to actually see the perfection of Christ consciousness or divine consciousness within myself? And so that's a part. I'll come back to that later too, but I just want to raise the question. The only person of whom you can be sure is not making spiritual progress is the one who is rejoicing in their spiritual progress. Haha. So if you think everything is going really well with your spiritual progress, Joel says, well, you can be sure that you're not making any progress. Yeah, that's a great expression too. I've seen it many times in different ways shared, and that is this effect. Like, you think that if you're not doing okay, if you're stuck, or you're so in the middle of a big one, so to speak, a big storm, emotional storm, or a big depression, or like something is really not working, you think that that's wasted time. And you think that your spiritual progress is delayed by just that. Now here's the thing that is so different. It's like, if you think everything is all right and you're rejoicing in your spiritual progress, absolutely nothing is happening. Otherwise you would be in the middle of it. So that's why it can be said like this, is like, stay in fact in your devastation, in your difficulty. Don't try to lift it because you think that is better. No. The whole setup here is in fact to bring you to the point where a rebirth becomes inevitable. That is an essential part. Like, that's a real key to realization. The moments that you're in deep trouble, the moments in you're really like devastated or all of this, like that is the moment where actually something can occur, that you're so close to sinking beyond your humanness into the divine comfort. You're so close to it at that point, because then you have nothing to lose anymore. That's so much easier than when you think you got so much to lose, or that everything feels like a sacrifice or this and that. You're never going to do it. Why would you give it up? That's an understandable human response to difficulty. But if you stay, say, on your bottom, if you stay right there in the middle of the difficulty, allowing yourself to feel all of that, then rebirth is almost like inevitable. It is, you have nothing to lose. So in other words, to become completely vulnerable and defenseless is really the next thing that's going to happen to you, which offers you everything, which offers you an openness of consciousness where actually something can be like revealed to you. And this is literally how my spiritual awakening started, being completely at the end of something. Like, I was at the end of my fear. I could not stand it any longer. I really wanted to be completely taken by it. Like, here I am. Come and take me, because I don't want to do this any longer. There's nothing in there for me anymore. Now, wherever I end up, I'm fine with it. So, and that was like a total different opening than I could possibly have imagined. So this is where Joel points at too, and he does it in different ways. So here's more expressions. Because the very moment, Joel says, that you have your first realization of the nature of spiritual life and spiritual being, you will see how many billion light years away you are from it as a human being. And you never again will claim progress toward it. Now, this is not directly easily understandable, but if you get it, it is really beautiful. Now read again. Because the very moment that you have your first realization of the nature of spiritual life and spiritual being, you see how many billion light years away you are from it as a human being, and you never again will claim progress toward it. And why does he say that? But your whole life will be lived in more and less the feeling of, please God, can't it be soon that I make a start at this at least? We become so aware of how far we are as human beings from our Christ identity and realization that we're too busy trying to attain it, too busy to have any feeling that we're getting close to it. So this is such an interesting part, because I'm so happy that Joel shares it specifically in this episode, because it's where the realization part comes in. It's like, how is it possible that you don't come any closer in your experience of yourself? And what you would expect, like in your human life, you make progress, like you build a career, or you discover your talents and work with them and see them expand and all lovely and beautiful. Like you make a fortune and make it bigger and bigger and bigger. And so you're a double Dutch billionaire, being happy with all of that. It's like, that's human life. That is something that you can see. So here's then the thing, and this is why I wanted to bring this in too. It's like that. Where is your human life based on? Past ideas. Where are your errors based on? An impersonal idea is what Joel says. Like, it's impersonal. Why is it impersonal? Joel brings us back to Genesis 2. Like, suddenly you discover good and evil. What is good? What is evil? And you try to live with that. You try to define yourself on the right side of the good and the bad. You bring that in. You compare everything. You look at differences. You try to do all these things. Just because that defines you as a human being. You want to be a good Christian, whatever. You want to be a good Infinite Way student. You want to be this, you want to be that. So you want to be good. You want that people think that you're good, and you compare yourself and you compete to make that happen. And here then in the divine order, and bring us back to the secrets, there's really something to discover. It's like in your human definition of yourself, you will never see any progress spiritually. You're not going to get it. Within that definition of yourself, you're not going to get it. So that is great, because within that construct that you make of yourself, the self-definition, the thing that you think that you are, the thing that you think that your neighbor is, all of this, all this mesmerism, temporal existence, all this all this human definition will never show you your divine nature. That's impossible. Because the divine nature has nothing to do with concepts. It has nothing to do with your definitions. No, it isn't. It is a realization. It is a revelation. It is the revelation of pure love from God to you, and discovering that, receiving that, seeing that that is you, truly seeing that that is your Christ consciousness, not anything else. So this is here we are at the point of treatment or realization, treatment or healing, and that is this point. So at the end of all your definitions, everything is possible by the grace of God. That is the treatment, the grace of God dawning on your consciousness. And that's a miraculous occurrence, like it is not under conscious control. That is not that you can make that happen. No, you have tried to make everything happen. And if you could make it happen, it would have happened. But you will never be able to make that happen, because literally you don't have to do it. It is a gift given to you. It's a gift of God, like it's a gift of grace given to you. It is what your Father wants for you. It is He created you not to be alone. He did that so He would not be alone, but He would have His Son with Him, and that is you. So it's like, that's beyond all definition. It is your spiritual nature. It is the big secret that you cannot grasp, because if you would grasp it, it wouldn't be it. And that's why it's so freeing to know that you don't need to understand your God realization to come into your God realization. No, it just depends on your openness. So your spiritual progress is not a longevity. It's not based on time experience. No, it's based on you being open to receive that in the moment, not having any ideas about yourself, and there it is. Like there it can come to you. Your consciousness is open to receive that. So in that sense, you're always just one thought away from it. The thought that you could hold about yourself needs to go. Now your God realization can come to you. And that is the secret, to receive the secret. So that's really wonderful. So I'm really happy that this came to the service, and I was able to share this with you. And if I speak like this, it's like I come only from my own experience with this. I know what Joel is talking about, like that is given to me. So in that sense, I directly give that to you as an extension of myself. It's like this is a precious secret that is being shared, and time and space are literally adjusted for you to receive that right now, to experience that, to come to the place where you say like, okay, yes, I don't want any of this. I only want the realization of God. I want to know what it means to be a son of God. I want to know what the love of God is. I want to experience that. Knock and it will be opened. Ask and it will be given. So this is for you. Yes, you are worthy to receive this. Not in your self-definitions, not in the way that you see yourself, but in the way that you are. So if you had to wait until you think like, okay, now everything is in order, now finally I can ask God for a realization, like you would be here another 2 million years, because I don't know how it is for you, but my so-called human progress goes slowly. Like if I had to depend on that, it would take forever to come to a God realization. So that is the great thing with what Joel brings us in the infinite way. It's like he's bringing to us a way to speed it up, in fact, to ask for it, to allow healing to occur, to come to a place beyond your own definitions, where you start to recognize yourself as the Christ consciousness that you are. How an incredible gift this is, but don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone. It's a secret. Don't tell anyone. This is yours. And like the same as what we did with the prayers. Enter into your closet and receive that. Because this is only about you. It's not about anyone else. You don't have to show it off to anyone. No, this is your secret. And it's a sacred secret you receive. When you enter into this place within yourself, you could see it as a closet, like you in this place where you in fact let go of everything and be open to be in communication, to receive the light and the love of God and rejoice in it, in all quiet, in all stillness, in all wholeness, in all beauty, in all perfection, and allow that to enter into your world, into your body, into your closet. So yeah, that's what I really wanted to share with you. So thank you so much for being open to receive this with me. And we will start listening. I will set it up in a moment, but we will start listening to Joel. And it's like, it doesn't really matter which part of the talk. So I'll do the first part, because he's really trying to organize the steps of healing.
Last night, I said that I would like to make this lecture series complete enough so that those who cannot be with us in the closed class can, if they wish, take up the study themselves at home. And so I will just give you a brief outline of the order of study to reach or to attain the best results. First of all, are you all hearing me? It is difficult for me to know how to adjust my voice with this machine. I don't like mechanical voices. But in order to have it carry across to the overflow room, it is necessary to use this. Since our main object in this work is the attaining of that transcendental consciousness of which we have been speaking, that spiritual consciousness or Christ consciousness, the first step is to attain a contact, actually a conscious contact, with our source. And this, of course, is always found within our own consciousness, and therefore is best attained through meditation. Because meditation is difficult, it has been my experience that it becomes simple if we start with practicing the presence of God, that is, bringing ourselves to a state of consciousness in which, from rising in the morning until retiring at night, we find ways of remembering God in the sense of acknowledging God as the life and as the law unto our being, acknowledging God as the substance of our activities, acknowledging God as the intelligence, the love, in fact, the all of our existence. Now, this is exemplified in our book, Practicing the Presence, and that book leads to the next one, The Art of Meditation. By the time these two books have been studied and practiced, it is inevitable that a true student will want to know enough of the principles of healing, not only to better enable themselves to be healed, but also to develop a healing consciousness. And therefore, the next book in order would be The Art of Spiritual Healing, and then The Infinite Way. After these, the books may be read or studied in any order that one finds convenient or to which one is led. For the benefit of those who do not have all of the writings, it is possible to secure these books at the public libraries here in Los Angeles. In fact, some years ago, I know that the main library was supplied with at least a half a dozen copies of every title. What the situation is, I do not know now, but if there should be any shortage of these books, it can easily be remedied. We also have some pamphlets which are helpful because they take up work from specific angles. As for instance, The Secret of the 23rd Psalm and Deep Silence of My Peace are found most helpful for beginners. They are found helpful for starting one's thinking along the mystical path. And then from there on, of course, one suits oneself in that direction until they come to our deepest writings, which are the fourth dimension and possibly love and gratitude. With this idea in mind, I have left the list at the book table, and anyone may refer to it for reference or to copy it down. In our first two nights, we have led up to the subject announced for tonight, which is the subject of prayer or treatment. In the Infinite Way, these words are not necessarily synonymous. In fact, I do not think of prayer and treatment as synonyms. You may find the distinction a small one. I find it quite a large one. In thinking of these two, I would take treatment first, because to me, prayer is the deepest subject in all spiritual and mystical literature, certainly the deepest experience in spiritual living. Treatment may fall into a different category because there are so many different forms of treatment, and none of these necessarily has to barge over into the realm of prayer. First of all, why do we have a subject like treatment? When, from every spiritual standpoint, there is certainly nobody to be treated and nothing to give a treatment to. I have told this story before, and I'm more than happy tonight to repeat it, that in my earliest days in the healing practice, I knew nothing of the subject of treatment, and all healing work was done by merely closing the eyes and waiting until a feeling of release or peace came within me, and that was the end of what we now call treatment work. It wasn't treatment, it was just an inner waiting for the Spirit to announce itself. However, all of those whom I met in this work were very busily at work with treatments. And some of these treatments, I was told, had 3 steps, and some 5 steps, and some 7 steps. Nobody seemed to be agreed on what a treatment consists of, but one thing was certain: there was lots of it. And this not only had me puzzled, but it had me disturbed, because I felt that perhaps there's something I don't know, or something I very well must know, for I don't want to fall down on this job. And so we learned that through meditation, the correct letter of truth is revealed, and it is this correct letter of truth, held in consciousness, remembered, declared, stated, repeated, which in its turn forms a whole new state of consciousness within us and brings us to the actual demonstration of a healing consciousness. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. But remember, you must know the truth, and it must really be the truth, not an assortment of statements about the truth, and not a mixture of truth teachings, but truth itself must be known, the correct letter of truth. For many years, I devoted myself to meditation on this very subject, so that I might know specific principles of healing, so that I might know what healed, why it healed, what made possible the healings. And I'm glad now that I spent those years in that way, because what I learned has been of such value to students that it has carried this work around the world. First of all, I learned that God does not heal disease, that God is not a healer of disease, that God knows nothing about disease, And if God could heal a disease, God would have done it yesterday and not waited for today. Also, if God were healing disease, God would never wait until you just found the right teacher or the right teaching or the right book or the right practitioner. In other words, it isn't the function of God to heal. The function of God is to be God, to express itself in all of its infinite spiritual glory, and it is forever doing this. Healing work has to do not with God, but with man. That man who is of the earth, earthy, the creature, who is not under the law of God, neither indeed can be, and in order to be whole, must get back to the kingdom of God, must be reestablished consciously in God, must become one with God, or as Paul tells us, have that Spirit of God dwell in you so that you may be the child of God. Therefore, treatment has nothing to do with bringing God down to our bodies or business or homes. It has nothing to do with bringing God to a disease. Treatment, as we understand it, is aimed at lifting ourselves above the realm of appearances into the atmosphere of God, where God is of too pure eyes to behold iniquity, and therefore there is no iniquity. There is no sin, no disease, no death, no lack, no limitation. Now, just merely to make statements that there is no error and there is no accident or there is no disease is nonsense, because in the realm of the human there is plenty of these. It is only as we rise above the realm of the human mind, only as we rise above the realm of good and evil and reach into that atmosphere of God, that we find it is literally true. There is no disease, there is no age, there is no change, there is no death, there is no limitation. But to attain that healing, we must rise into that atmosphere or realm, and if we're to heal ourselves, we must attain some measure of that mind that was in Christ Jesus. If we are to be healed by another, it will only be if we find another who has risen into the atmosphere of God, the realm of God, the spiritual consciousness where discords dissolve, evaporate, disappear, and are seen no more. Treatment, therefore, is the conscious knowledge or awareness or declaration or statement of the specific principles which constitute a healing message. In the infinite way, the two major principles that base the healing work are these. First, the nature of God. Second, the nature of evil, error of any name or nature. Therefore, our treatment would first of all be the realization of God as one, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. God is infinite and God is one. God is life. Therefore, there is only one infinite life. That life is God. Therefore, life must be eternal, harmonious, spiritual, perfect, omnipresent, where I am. God is power. God is one power. God is infinite power, eternal power. Therefore, God must be the only power. The only power. What about this sin, false appetite, disease? What about this unemployment, this unhappiness, this loneliness? What about this fear? God is one, therefore power is one, therefore there can only be one power, and that power must be spiritual. Therefore, there can be no power in that which is called the sins, the diseases, the death, the lack, the limitations, the accidents, the inheritances of this world. Only one power, only one life. Another word comes, law. Law. Somebody says, I'm suffering from a law of infection, a law of contagion, a law of heredity, a law of climate, a law of weather. But truth says, God is the lawgiver, God is the law, God is spirit. Therefore, law must be spiritual. And since there can only be one God, there can only be one law. And that must be spiritual law. Therefore, that which the world calls material law, mental law, laws of weather, laws of economics, these cannot be law. These are but the arm of flesh or nothingness. These are the mistaken beliefs of man who has accepted two powers, the power of good and the power of evil. But can there be two powers if God is one? Likewise, God is omnipresent, all present. Therefore, where I am, God is. And Scripture tells us that where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. In other words, there can be no such thing as bondage to either material laws or mental laws. There can be no bondage to material sense or mental sense. There can be no bondage to time or tide or condition. No bondage to calendars. In this way, then, those who have studied the Scriptures and the metaphysical writings that are based on Scripture, these know enough of these statements of truth to constitute a treatment. And more especially, understanding the nature of God as one, the nature of God as spirit, the nature of God as the only law, it is a simple thing to formulate a treatment based on the realization of God. Having done this, our treatment takes its next step. And that is this. One of the earliest discoveries that I made in the earliest days of my practice was this. That error of any name or nature is not personal. There is no one in this world responsible for their own ills. It makes no difference whether an individual is a sinner of the deepest dyed red. It makes no difference what's the name or nature of their disease or of the false appetite which may at any moment be controlling them. It is not their fault, and they are not to be held responsible, and they are not to be asked to change their ways. It is not their wrong thinking that has made them ill. It is not their ancestry that has done it, or the wrong thinking of their parents or grandparents. It is not the errors of their race or their religion that has done it. As a matter of fact, there is no reason for their ill which had its origin in them. All evil has its source in the impersonal belief named in the 2nd chapter of Genesis, the acceptance of the belief in two powers. That is where all error has its rise. And if you would lay the axe at the root of all evil, you will never judge, criticize, or condemn yourself, your patient, or your student. You will adopt the attitude of the Master when he was faced with the gravest crime in all of the Hebrew church. In case you think it's murder, it isn't. The greatest crime in the Hebrew church is adultery. And it is punishable by the same punishment as that of murder. Stoning to death. That's how serious adultery is in the Hebrew faith. And the Master, with a woman taken in adultery, says, "Neither do I condemn you." Please remember that whenever you are called upon for a healing for yourself, for a patient, for a student, for a relative, regardless of what you know about them humanly, please remember the attitude to be in accord with spiritual revelation must be, "Neither do I condemn thee." Go and sin no more, lest the worst thing come upon thee. But right now, neither do I condemn thee. And the cross, the thief on the cross, I say to you, I will take you with me into paradise this very night. Not wait for you to suffer it out. Not wait for you to work through generations of karma. But right now, tonight, while you are repentant of your sin, your scarlet sin is now white as snow. Once you are able to discern that all evil is impersonal, you will find how wonderful the healing work is, how quickly it can be accomplished in most cases, and how painlessly it is arrived at. Why? Because you never have to take your patient into your thought. When you never have to name your patient, you never have to take the disease into your mind, you never have to name it, you don't even have to know what it is, you don't even have to know the name of the patient that is calling upon you for help. I've brought this out many, many times that in the case of women, we can't know their name, except those that are still single. There's always a married name or the second married name, or the third. So how and what use is a name? When an individual asks you for help, they have made a contact with your consciousness. Now, if your consciousness is imbued with truth, that is, if you are dwelling in the realization of the infinite omnipresent nature of God, and if you are living in the realization that all evil, regardless of its name and nature, is an impersonal, universal belief in two powers, you have almost completed your treatment, even without giving a treatment. You see, these forms of treatment, such as I'm going through tonight, are those that we use perhaps in the first year of our study until we know these truths so thoroughly that they are part of our very being. Then, when we're called for help, we don't have to rehearse all of this treatment. We can jump to it like we can 12 times 12 or 144. Why go through 2 times 2 and 2 times 1 and 1 times 2 and 1 time, and then add them all up? When quick as a wink you can say 144. So it is in the early stages of your study. You must know the nature of God, and you must know it in 1,000 different ways. Then you must know the nothingness of every appearance of sin, disease, and death. I don't mean by individual name, but I do mean that when you come to a season of grip and flu and cold, that you know enough to know that you don't have to sit down and give treatments for it. It is enough to know once and for all that this is a universal belief in two powers, an arm of flesh or nothingness, and then go about your business and forget it, and see how quickly you prove it. As long as you do not personalize good and do not personalize evil, you will find healing work to be one of the greatest joys on earth. And as lots of my students have told me, when they first start to heal, they feel ashamed to take the money. They did so little for it. It is literally true. Healing work is not difficult, except in the few cases that really seem to resist all of the knowing for one reason or another, and it is those few cases that really take most of your time. It is safe to say that 80% of all the cases that come to you, no matter how numerous they may be, will take little or no time. It is the other 10 or 20% that really takes time and effort, because for reasons too numerous to mention in this brief space of time, they do not yield. And perhaps the Master said it, this kind goeth not out but by prayer and fasting, and you have to do a lot of praying and a lot of fasting for some of those cases.
So beautiful Hawaiian music came to me to share, for one thing. So I wanted to share something. Like, we have been gone for a week now. What happened was a reunion, and a reunion of so I was a student of Master Teacher, where I also met a student of Joel. I got directly in contact with a direct student of Joel, and he introduced me to the Infinite Way. But the Master Teacher that I was with, he had quite a following, and this following had a reunion, and since I was part of that, I wanted to check out how that would be and take part in it. Now, some of us went there too. Some of us who are here now went there too. So I'm going to share with you some little video with some radiant faces that represent your brothers, since we're one in Christ. And this joy is your joy. So it is also like a total inspiration to come to reunion, to come to a moment where we are meeting each other. For instance, in physical presence and say like, wow, we've done this online. That was wonderful. And here we are, alive, loving each other, joining with each other in this beautiful light of recognition that we share. So this happened too in Wisconsin, where we were, like Wisconsin Dells. And so I want to show you some just radiant faces, as I call them, of your brothers in light and recognition. So I really didn't want you to miss that. So these are all the bright lights that are your brothers, just like you, and it's wonderful to meet you. So thank you for your patience, for letting me share this with you, and thank you for everything. I hope to see you soon, and bye for now. Thank you.